every single book that I have read so far in 2024. Right, welcome back to Lilybelle Lifts YouTube channel. You know, all the things to do, like, subscribe if you're new here. I make a lot of random health and fitness content with a bit of a mix of lots of book content. It's basically a place of all my hobbies where I love to share my passions. But it is a happy 6 months into 2024, which is insane. And I haven't done an update couple of months of my monthly book wrap up. So I thought, let's do 6 months into every single book that I have read so far in 2024, and it is 29 books, and that does not include anything I might have DNF'd or like started, stopped. These are 29 books that I have finished, and I'm going to run through them all, I guess, in quite a rapid fire, because we do not want to be here for 29 minutes. So let's not spend a minute on every book. But I would say so far, 6 months into the year, it has been a very, very successful reading year. There has been so many like 4-star books. Everything has just been like a great read. So I feel like there is a lot of different recommendations that I can provide out of the 29 books. But I would like to hopefully at the end of the year kick off a few more 5 stars, because I was reflecting back about to film this thinking, what are my top favorite books that I've read? And to be honest, I couldn't pinpoint too many. So it's a lot of 4-star books that are just like great, having a good time in the moment. But then once it's done, they're also just kind of leaving my mind. So hopefully there's a few more books that really stand out. But at the end, maybe I'll point out a few that I would say have been my top reads so far. But let's just get started. January feels like it was a long time ago. I'm going to go onto my Goodreads, which I will try and link as well in below, and you can follow my Goodreads if you want to see more regular updates on what I rate books. And my goal for the year was 42 books. It currently says I'm 9 books ahead of schedule, so we're kicking goals in 2024. It has definitely been like a fast speed of reading at the start of the year, but I also feel like that definitely slows off towards the end of the year. So it will be interesting to see if I actually do surpass the 42, or if it kind of does round off at the 42 based on maybe if reading slows down. My first book that I read, did I even put it here? I did not. So my very first book of the year, because I began the series with the prequel. So I started Assassin's Blade and I read that at the end of 2023. So I remember reading Throne of Glass at the very, very beginning, which honestly feels like last year. And on Goodreads, I rated this 5-star. And so far, I actually think that would be very accurate, because I really loved Assassin's Blade and Throne of the Glass. And we'll get into a few more that I've read throughout this year. But spoiler alert, I have still not finished the series. I have been very, very slow with it. I think as the books have gone on, it's gotten so more overwhelming that I kind of slowed down. So I'm not sure that they will keep being 5 stars or whether it's going to be like a 5-star series overall. But I kind of slowed down just so I could really enjoy it, because otherwise I felt like I was going to keep skipping over things. So I'm going to say it's like a 4.5 star, and I rounded it up to a 5-star. And that's kind of where my rating is at, but I definitely do want to finish this whole world of Throne of the Glass and Selena Sorodithian. I do not know how to say her last name, but I do love her. Definitely recommend jumping into this, but not without finishing the aatar series. The second book that I jumped on, I actually vividly remember when I decided to finish Addicted for Now. I had started it like on my Kindle probably actually the year before, but I was on holidays and I'd finished Throne of the Glass and I needed another quick book to read on the aeroplane when I was in Mexico. So I jumped back into the Calloway Sisters world, and now I have read those first 3, and I think from then on it kind of shifts away from the actual Callaways and it like goes on to the interconnected series. I could be very, very wrong, but I do think it's one of those series I will pick up every now and then, but it could honestly be 12 months in between each book. But I do really love kind of, I don't know that I love it, but it's like one of those words that it is easy to read. I would recommend it to people who also want a quick, easy read. It's got deeper meanings to it, like, you know, addictions and things like that. But I think it's really, really well done. And I feel like it'll always be a hyped up classic, not classic, but a hyped up like BookTok classic and OG for a reason. So I think I'm gonna guess I rated it like a 3-star. Yeah, I rated this one a 3-star, and I think it is a solid 3-star kind of. I would recommend. I never remember too much about it, but it's like those characters, I always kind of remember them. So okay, I need to start speeding through these a little bit more. So I'm going to jump into, then I decided to continue on with like the aatar series, because I had read A Court of Thorn and Roses way, 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 way longer. Never picked it up because, like everyone says, the first book is not the best, but you have to keep pushing through. And now it is actually a series I always think about. So everyone who says keep pushing through, they are very, very accurate. So I did read a book in between this, but I'm just going to talk about them together. So the next two books I read, like Akamath and Akawar, and I actually think out of these two, definitely Akamath was more of my favorite, but I know a lot of people love these two, but I actually really love A Court of Silver Flames the most out of the entire series, but these were solid 4 to 5 stars for me. Okay, yeah, I did a 4-star and a 5-star, which I'm actually surprised myself because didn't I just say I feel like this one was my favorite? But anyway, I feel like because I read them really close back to back, it just was like when you're in that zone, you're like, oh, it just gets better and better, and it does get better and better. But yeah, I highly recommend pushing through aatar and getting through the rest of the book. And in between that, I was still traveling a lot and I wanted a quick read. So on my Kindle, I jumped into Flawless by Elsie Silver. And this is a huge, everyone loves the Chestnut Spring series, and I have not continued on since this. I have continued on with more of Elsie Silver's writing, which I did love, but I did not enjoy this. I don't know what it was. I think I actually don't like a heap of the characters talking to each other, and I kind of don't get the hype around it, but maybe I need to push through and try another because I know they're more interconnected and it could be a different couple that maybe I would prefer. But I actually didn't love this. I feel like it's a solid 3 stars. Oh, actually I rated it 2 stars, and I think actually on my YouTube channel you can probably see the book wrap up. I definitely did a book wrap up earlier in the year that included this. I probably went deeper into my thoughts, but clearly it's left my mind and it's a 2-star from me. I can understand why other people did enjoy them, but it's just not for me. But maybe I should try it again. I don't know. Okay, the next 2 books I did read back to back, and I think that's what really helped me love these books as like a little duo a lot. I actually think this is one of my top reads of the year as a duo. A lot of people did not like the second one, but maybe it's also because they had to wait for it to come out, and I kind of read them back to back, which I really, really loved. And everyone was right. You got to get through the first kind of 50 pages and then it picks up. But that is the Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, and I loved them. They're right. If you go into Ruthless Vows, don't think of so much about the romance continuing on because it definitely gets a bit more political. But I actually really, really liked that about this. It made it more of a world and just more like higher stakes, more interesting. But nonetheless, it was just such like a beautifully, I almost want to say poetically written, old-fashioned kind of love story with the typewriters. I actually really love the look of the special edition books, and they have the typewriters in them. Oh, I think I rated, yeah, Divine Rivals 5 stars, which I would stick by, and Ruthless Vows 4 stars, which I think is also accurate because it's not as what's going to happen, but the cliffhanger of this one is just beautiful. And so yeah, I would actually rate this duo a 5-star duo, and I would recommend it to a lot of people. So I think that's actually one of my top reads at the start of the year. This was like definitely 2 of my favorite books to kind of kickstart. And I decided I needed to finish up aatar while it was like fresh in my mind. So I went on to like, is it a little novella like in between, just kind of diving in. This is the part where it also switches POVs. I feel like all the other series were just the one POV and then it really changes up. And I think this was my absolute favorite book. 5 stars out of 5 stars, A Court of Silver Flames. It has multiple different POVs, but Nesta is just my absolute favorite. And I think you either will love her or hate her. She's like frustrating. She's kind of going through a lot, but I think she's just my favorite character by far. And I actually really hope Sarah J. Maas is hopefully working on and writing on more of the aatar series, so she has hinted. And I hope it has a lot more of Nesta in it. Just like really beautifully written. I felt like I was in her mind. So I think this is 5 out of 5 for me, almost a 6-star read, and it's by far my favorite one in the aatar series. The next 2 books, I did jump in and read a couple of books in between, but I'm just going to talk about them together because I read the next 2 books in the Throne of Glass series, which, as I have mentioned, I have still yet to finish it. I did not make it far past this point, but then I read, I think it's Terrifier, Crown of Midnight. I really, really did love Crown of Midnight, but I also think it was because I decided to not put it down and just keep reading through, and it was the way I was able to like soak up the characters more, actually understand the world. So I think that really helped me. And if you're struggling to maybe kick off Throne of Glass, I definitely think don't take breaks. Don't take too many breaks because you will fall out of the world, and that's kind of what's happening to me at the moment because I'm currently in the middle of, is it Queen of Shadows? yeah, I'm currently in the middle of Queen of Shadows and I just haven't got past it. And I know once I get past that point, then I'm up to the Tandem read and then Kingdom of Ash, which I really just want to read Kingdom of Ash. So I do need to get through it. But yeah, I would highly recommend. Again, there's nothing I can say much about this because by this point in the big Throne of Glass series, anything I say will kind of be spoilers. But all I can say is I think I'm really glad with the order I decided to read Assassin's Blade in, which was at the very, very beginning, because personally for me, I think it made more attached to the story. So I don't actually remember what I rated these, but I can imagine it was probably a 4-star, which I think seems pretty accurate because I do remember loving them at the time. But we're in the middle of a series by this point, so there's a lot of world building. Next thing I read, it was like around Valentine's Day, and there was a bunch of authors who like collaborated and made the Valentine's Day miniseries, and I read nearly all of them, and I actually really, really loved them. Particularly, I really loved Abby Jimenez because I love her writing and I loved her tiny little prequel, but I actually do really, really recommend them. And it was like the Improbable Meet Cute series, so I'll put them up here. But I read the Improbable, The Worst Wingman Ever, which was definitely by far my favorite, and I actually rated it 4 stars. That was Abby Jimenez. Then I read With Any Luck, which was a 3-star, and that was by Ashley Poston, but I really loved The 7-Year Slip, so I wanted to read hers. Then I read Christina Lauren's, which I think I really enjoyed, and I've only ever read one other book from Christina and Lauren, and that was a 4-star rating for me. So The Exception to the Rule was also really good. I decided I needed to jump back in to Magnolia Parks, or the Daisy Hates world, as you say. I actually still need to finish the new one. I have started it, but I did really enjoy this. I don't know why I kept putting it off for a while. I think because you're either a Magnolia and BJ or you're a Daisy Hates fan, and I am definitely more of a Magnolia and BJ fan. So I much prefer reading in Magnolia's view. What is it called? The little footnotes that are in, I think there's footnotes in these ones. Yeah, the little footnotes in Daisy Hates is just kind of interesting, but I also find it distracts me from the page. So depends what works for you, but I prefer the Magnolia books. But I do really love this book, and I think it was probably a 4 or 4.5 star. It's a 4-star rating. Isn't it funny how we actually don't really remember our ratings afterwards, and we make such a big deal out of what the ratings were, and then they kind of slip our mind. But anyway. Okay, the next books I read are definitely kind of an older, hyped up, probably book talk that I just never got around, and I don't know what made me. I think I was watching someone on YouTube and they had said it was most likely Rachel, how she said this was like her favorite series from a long time ago. And it actually became a 5-star series for me. It was so easy to read. I just remember flying through them every morning on the treadmill. I was loving being in this world. I really loved the way it was written about like fairies and just kind of the magical aspect. And again, it kind of reminded me of like Divine Rivals, where it was written very poetically and old-fashioned, which I kind of adore. So it was the Folk of Air series, and I really, really loved. And I have seen that there's even been more kind of standalone / continued on series of the brother, I think, within this series. So I definitely want to jump onto them. Really love The Cruel Prince, Wicked King, Queen of Nothing, and I think The Cruel Prince was just my favorite. Maybe even the second book I really, really loved. Rated The Cruel Prince 5-star, and I'm going to give this whole series a 5 stars because I think I would recommend it to anyone who just wanted a quick, easy kind of fantasy read that just was captivating. There is like no romance in this very much, and I loved that about this. It was just so quick and easy to read. So next up, I read an Elle Kennedy book, and it's one of her new ones, and because it was a standalone, I wanted to read it because I actually have, I think it's The Deal, and I have just never read it, and I don't know why. I feel like maybe because it's such an old written book, maybe I won't enjoy it, maybe I will. I feel like there's just so much hype and criticism about it either way that now it's just putting me off it. But I thought I would jump into her new book, which was Girl Abroad, and I really enjoyed this book. I remember reading it really, really quickly. It's a 4-star. It's just a quick, light kind of romance, but also just more about her moving abroad, having just a father in her life who was actually a famous musician, and she kind of doesn't want to tell anyone that, but she just lived a really interesting world. And I think she was like dropped off at her dad's doorstep like at a young age, and then he just decided he's going to take on the dad role and not be like a heavy musician anymore. And the fact that I'm remembering this much detail about it as well is kind of surprising me for like just a quick, easy romance standalone. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters, and it's a 4 stars for me. And I would definitely say pick it up. And maybe this means I should read more of Al Kennedy's work. I'm not sure, but let me know if I should go back to the deal, or will I not enjoy it because maybe it's one of her older books. I'm not sure. Next book I read, I'm actually going to say is hands down my favorite book of the year, and it is a 6-star read. Nothing can top it. I just love, love, love. And I think all of her books I have read have been a 5-star read. And that is Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. Her new release, I think I even pre-ordered it. I was so excited for her new release. There is nothing that Abby has written that I have not loved. I still need to actually finish a few of her backlog. I need to finish off the Friend Zone series, I think it is. There's like 2 more books that I haven't read of that. But oh my gosh, I just love her writing. I don't know how to describe it. It actually made me cry. I actually was sending photos to my boyfriend in this book because the way she writes about a character is just so beautiful, and the quotes are like old-fashioned love that I just couldn't get over. And the characters she writes about you can really connect with. And for me, this one has just been by far one of my favorite books she's ever written. I thought Part of Your World is one of my favorites, but I actually think this is probably up there as my new favorite. But either way, it is a 6-star read that I will recommend to anyone. And I almost actually don't want to recommend it to people I know in my personal life, because I will be hurt if they don't love this book as much as I do. I was actually really hesitant to go into this book, and I think a lot of people were either hesitant or excited. But when Ali Hazelwood said she was coming out with, I don't even know what they call it. Is it a dystopian? No, I don't even know if it's that. I actually don't know what the word is, but it's not a fantasy, and it's very dark. Is it like vampires and werewolves? Something along those lines, whatever category that belongs to. It definitely gives me a bit of Twilight vibes, which growing up, I didn't really watch Twilight, so I was not sure if I was going to like this. I actually haven't enjoyed that many of Ali Hazelwood's romance books other than The Love Hypothesis, which is probably surprising. I'm not sure why I don't enjoy them, but I decided to give this a go, and turns out I really loved it. I actually really loved this book. I cannot wait for the second one. I think she's bringing out a second one in this kind of world, or maybe it continues on. I'm not too sure. I need to look it up. But Bride by Ali Hazelwood, even just the cover, I really, really loved everything about this book. Yes, there was some strange moments that I think a lot of people are talking about, but I kind of just skimmed over that, and I just really loved the way this story went on with Misery. I even loved the characters' names. I thought it was so unique, and I actually thought this story seemed kind of unique when I was expecting it to be very Twilight, very common. But Ali Hazelwood surprised me here, and I think I rated it like a 4.5 star. I enjoyed this. So if you like, you know, Marriage of Convenience to then Lovers, this one was definitely had an interesting twist to it. So I do really recommend Bride by Ali Hazelwood, but I can understand why maybe it wouldn't be for everyone. Then I picked up the little novella that came out, and I was very excited for this one because I have pre-ordered Reckless, which is coming out this week. So maybe I need to do like anticipated reads, because there is a lot of new releases coming out that I'm excited for to get my hands on. They're all pre-ordered. This was just, I don't know how to explain it. There's nothing I can say without it being a spoiler from the first one, but I think it was just so good to even refresh my memory and not have to reread all of Powerful. But reading this little novella from Peyton's point of view is so good. Jumping into Reckless very, very soon. My memory is fresh, ready to go. And yeah, it was sad still. There's a lot of emotions in this book, but I think it's a really good idea that she did this, and I would love for this series to keep continuing on. So I'm excited how Reckless ends, because Powerful was one of my top reads last year. So I think this novella came at a perfect time in between getting everyone ready for Reckless without too much time passing. I would say this was a 4 to 5 stars. I could have read another 200 pages of this easily. It went so quick, and I wanted more of the story, and I thought it was so cool just being in the back end, because Peyton made so many in like of the costumes and the fashion world, and even that just being described within the book was so good to read about. This would definitely be one of my next top reads of the year so far that I would recommend. And I know I said I've had like not that many top reads, but that's still, I've only had a couple, but everything has still been like a 4 kind of star. I know there's a few 3 stars and things, but I definitely had a few standouts, and this is one of them. The Crimson Moth, which if you are in the US, I believe it's called The Heartless Hunter, which I actually prefer that title because it's the Crimson Moth series. Or is it the I don't even know if it's, I think it's the Crimson Moth series, and then the Heartless Hunter was the first one, which I just think is a better name and suits the first book so well, particularly once you read it, you're just like, yeah, she's the Heartless Hunter. She spends her day kind of like a socialite. She doesn't tell anyone that she is the Crimson Moth. And there is these people who are hunting for the Crimson Moth, and let's just say like enemies to lovers, but also a bit of a love triangle within this book. And all I can say is I'm really looking forward to more books within this world. It was such a new book that all of a sudden everyone just started talking about. It really got hyped up very quickly, and I am one of them. And I really loved it, and I love the hype it's getting. I want the Heartless Hunter name in Australia, but nonetheless, Crimson Moth, it is the exact same book if you are confused, but definitely a 5, nearly a 6-star read for me, and I cannot wait to read more. And I keep checking of when's the next one coming out because I just want it so badly, but I really, really loved this. Rune was such a good character as the Crimson Moth as well. It's like living a double life, bit of a Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana. Next up was Emily Henry's new release. Everyone was talking about funny story, her new release that was coming out. I didn't have my expectations too high because I'm a bit of a hit or miss with Emily Henry. I really did love her recent one, Happy Place, and I was hoping that Funny Story will be definitely of a similar like for me, and I would say it was. I think it's runner-up. I think I prefer Happy Place, but this was a 4-star for me. I think I now just understand the way Emily Henry writes her books, and it makes me enjoy being in her world a little bit more, and I can get around the hype and understanding why people love her books. I'm not a diehard. Okay, no idea where I was before the camera ended talking about Funny Story. Nonetheless, I think Happy Place is top tier for me, but this definitely just proved to me I can definitely understand Emily Henry's writing more, and it's a 4-star for me. I don't know if my camera caught when I was saying it was just Miles that I didn't necessarily love his character. And I think for an Emily Henry book to be like one of your favorites is because you connected with the characters, you understood. For me, this was predictable, but I just still loved it. I still loved reading it. So it was like a 4-star for me. And I understand why some people would really, really love this, but I also can see why maybe Happy Place is more top tier because of the deeper found family and friend connection that you could definitely have to that book. And the next book I read, in saying when I said, you know, I tried Elsie Silver's writing later on, I still do love her writing. It was just Chestnut Spring series that maybe isn't for me, or maybe it is, I'm not sure. But I really, really loved her new release, which was Wild Love. It was one of her anticipated release that a lot of Elsie Silver fans were waiting on. And I can definitely understand the hype around this new world, which definitely connects to the Chestnut Spring series. But because I didn't dive much further than the first book, I have no idea what that connection is, but there was enough hints within this book for me to understand what it was trying to tell me, that there is a connection between someone's brother or sister. I cannot remember which character, but you do not need to read Chestnut Spring series to understand the connection in this, but I'm sure it would make you maybe love the connections. It's kind of like in Abby Jimenez books. If you have read multiple of them, you love the little Easter eggs and the little hints she gives and the connections. But yeah, definitely loved the characters in this. It was definitely predictable. It could have been a little bit shorter because I feel like it kind of hit an ending earlier on than expected. And then I was like, what's the point of the rest of this? But I still love it, and I would say it's a 4-star. Recommend. Love her writing. I'm going to talk about 2 of them as a duo because they are a duo, but I did read a book in between them. But that is Anatomy of a Love Story and Immortality, a Love Story. Now, you are going to want to buy both books at the same time because this book will leave you on a cliffhanger that you just want to read this. And coincidentally, these 2 books actually really, really remind me of Divine Rivals and why I loved those books so much. I could definitely see a similarity, and if you enjoy Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, you would definitely enjoy this duo and be able to also just a quick, easy read that you just kind of immerse yourself in this world super quickly. It is set in the 1800s, and it is about a girl becoming a heart surgeon, which is obviously not allowed back then, which is like crazy ridiculous. But the way the story just tells that is incredible. And I don't want to say much more because I just think going on a ride of just knowing that she wants to be a heart surgeon and where this book takes place, there is a lot of twists and turns that it's almost like a mystery in itself. Like you could definitely class certain parts of these books as a mystery. They end on cliffhangers. The first one definitely does, but I think the second one neatly wraps it all up. Some might say maybe it gets a little bit boring, but I think it kept you on the edge of your seat enough and didn't tell you the answer too quickly for you to not then want to keep reading. So I really enjoyed it. I actually think it's a top read so far of the year that I would recommend to anyone. and I think it is just so well written. I love that style of writing. I think this is telling me something. The fact that I love Divine Rivals, this, and the Crimson Moth, they are all kind of written in a similar writing style. So if you loved any of those books, definitely pick up these ones. It was like a pleasant surprise. I didn't think I would love it as much as I did. The first book was definitely a 5-star, and the second book's like a 4.5-star. Summer Will Be Different, which was Carly Fortune's new release. I think it was like medium, like some people were anticipating it, some people were like, please don't let us down again, because a lot of people have not liked, a lot of people have not liked her other books, but I haven't really read them, so I have no idea. But I sussed out Goodreads because I was like, there's been a lot of, you know, different things said about her other books, and I was like, I don't really know if I can be bothered picking them up. But when I saw that there was like hype and this, everyone was kind of like, this was like a redemption, everyone loved the writing again, I was like, you know what, this is a perfect time to trial out her writing. So This Summer Will Be Different, picked it up as a new release, went into it quite blindly, and what I loved about it, it's like a 4-star rating for me. I loved that it goes back past and present. It kind of reminded me of, what's that Christina Lauren book? Love in Other Words. It reminded me of that a little bit. It's an easy read. It's probably one of those books I won't remember for long, but it's a recommended romance book. And I really love when chapters go back and forth because it makes you not want to put it down because you need to keep reading, as if you can just stop in the past. Oh, our stack is getting dangerous. But the last book I read so far of this year, I do not have the physical copy, but they are on Kindle Unlimited, and it was an anticipated read for me based on how much I have recommended the first 2 books to so many people that I know. And I loved the Housemaids series so much that I have not really read a thriller or mystery since, because I did not want to be let down, because the plot twist can really have a heavy impact on how you rate a book. These 2 have a plot twist that I just loved. They were a book I wanted to keep talking about to people in my life who don't even care about these books, but I just needed to tell them about the twists and turns that took place. So when I heard there was a 3rd one, I was like, please don't let me down. Please do not, you know, drag on the story more than it's needed. But I was so excited because of how much I loved these 2 books. And I think if you haven't read any other Freida McFadden and you start with these, then you're going to love it. You're going to go for the roller coaster. But if you have read other Freida McFaddens, you're going to start to notice there's too much of a trend, and you'll probably just be like, it was the same kind of thing. And that's how I felt with the 3rd one, which was The Housemaids Watching. I was just disappointed that the twists and turns took 50% to get into the book. And I don't know what, I do love that her books are so quick. You could read them in 24 hours, even though they're like a 330-page book. Like, they're like a similar size to this book, but this will take you days longer than these will. And I don't know what is in them that does that. I think there's definitely less words on a page as well. But on your Kindle Unlimited, you can definitely just speed through them like no other. But unfortunately, I did read the 3rd one just as quick, but it just wasn't as exciting, and I was almost just kind of dragging myself through it. So I have to say it's like a 2-star read, which just disappoints me so much. But I will still recommend these, and I'll probably tell you, if you're going to read The Housemaid, just stop after these 2 and you'll be happy. Do not read the 3rd one. But that's enough said. That was my most disappointing read of the year so far, because I was looking forward to it so much because of how quick and just fun they can be, and it just wasn't it. But anyway, that is my wrap up of all 29 books that I have read so far in 2024. We are off to a good start, and if I had to recommend any, it would definitely be, they're of a similar taste, so I think that's telling me something, but definitely The Anatomy of a Love Story duo, as well as the Crimson Moth and the Divine Rivals series. And if I had to throw in a romance, probably, oh, of course, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez was definitely my standout read so far of the year. I hope this definitely gives you some recommendations, or maybe you can give me recommendations based off the ones I've told you that I just love. And there's a good mix of like fantasy, romance, kind of literary fiction, all of the above. If you did enjoy, please like, subscribe, come back for more book content, or whether it's more health and fitness and kind of lifestyle vlogs. That is what I bring to my channel. So I definitely hope you enjoyed and found something maybe that you could pick up on your next read. But thank you nonetheless. If you made it this far, drop a little comment of little books below. But thank you.